Hello guys, my name is Muhammad Azmiadian and today we are going to discuss about South Asian diaspora. There are actually so many famous people, but today we are going to focus on Jhumpa Lahiri. First, we need to get to know who Jhumpa Lahiri is. She was born in London and raised in the US, so she was living in between. Jhumpa Lahiri was born in London, England in 1967 to Indian parents, and she moved to the United States at the age of 2, growing up away from her ancestral homeland, India, but never fully belonging to mainstream American identity, placed her in a constant state of cultural in-betweenness. This liminal space, neither fully Indian nor fully American, becomes the foundation of her storytelling. Many of her characters stand at the same crossroads, negotiating where they belong and who they are allowed to be. And she also had strong Indian cultural roots. Although she was raised in the US, her household remained deeply connected to Indian traditions. Bengali was spoken at home, Indian food was cooked daily, and her parents often reminisced about life in Calcutta. These cultural elements shaped her sense of identity, creating both comfort and distance. She was connected to India, cultural but not geographically. This duality gives her writing a unique authenticity, as she narrates from both inside and outside the culture. And she also won the Pulitzer Prize for her debut short story collection Interpreter of Melodies in 1999, received the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, a milestone not only for Lahiri, but also for South Asian diaspora representation in global literature. This recognition proved that immigrant narratives carry universal emotional power. After this breakthrough, she became one of the most influential literary figures exploring themes of migration, belonging, and cultural identity. Now, let's break down the famous book of hers, Interpreter of Melodies. I have put some of the screenshots I've got from the book. So, the first is Lahiri received a BA from Barnard College and applied unsuccessfully to several graduate creative writing programs. She took a job as a research assistant in her free time mornings and evenings, and the office worked on her first book of short fiction. Soon, she was accepted into Boston University's creative writing program. Finishing there, she took a PhD in Renaissance Studies and continued to write stories. Between 1993 and 1997, she won several fiction prizes. By 1997, she decided that she wished to work on fiction full-time and was admitted into the Fine Arts Work Center at Provincetown. In 7 months, she had hired an agent, sold her first book, and published a story in the New Yorker. Her first book, Interpreter of Melodies, 1999, a collection of 9 stories, 1/3 of which had appeared in the New Yorker, won a Pulitzer Prize for fiction in 2000. Her first novel, The Namesake, appeared in 2003. BA is Bachelor of Arts. In Indonesia, it's often called as Sarjana in the fields of humanities and social sciences, such as literature, languages, history, philosophy, and related disciplines. Melodies means illnesses or ailments, but in the context of Lahiri's book, Interpreter of Melodies, the meaning goes deeper than just physical sickness. In this collection, Melodies represents emotional, cultural, and psychological struggles faced by characters living between two worlds, India and the West, tradition and modernity, past and present. You can think of it as type of melody emotional such as loneliness, grief, longing, and in cultural such as displacement, identity crisis, difficulty adapting, in relational such as marriage issues, communication gaps, and secrets, and in internal confusion about self or loss of belonging. Okay, the next one is about the Dash family, about Indian by heritage but American by identity. Look on the underlined sentence. The family looked Indian, but dressed as foreigners did. the children in stiff, brightly colored clothing and caps with translucent visors. Mr. Kapasi had pressed his palms together in greeting, but Mr. Das squeezed hands like an American so that Mr. Kapasi felt it in his elbows. Lahiri highlights cultural duality silently through clothes, gestures, and accents. Their identity is split without having to explain it directly. Okay, the next one is about Mr. Kapari's jobs. Interpreting pain, but not belonging anywhere. He had dreamed of being an interpreter for diplomats and dignitaries, resolving conflicts between people and nations, settling disputes of which he alone could understand both sides. And the next one is, now only handful of European phrases remained in his memory. European phrases means English, while the word he refers to Mr. Kapasi, or the fictional character represented as Indian family. Emotion, not statistics. Loss of language. Loss of identity. This is diaspora pain expressed quietly and symbolically. The most emotional symbol, the lost address. When he finished writing his address, Mr. Kapasi handed her the paper, but as soon as he did so, he worried that he did either misspelled his name or accidentally reversed the numbers of his postal code. He dreaded the possibility of a lost letter, the photograph never reaching him, hovering somewhere in Orissa. Close, but ultimately unattainable. He thought of asking for the slip of paper again, just to make sure he had written his address accurately. But Mrs. Des had already dropped it into the jumble of her bag. Why this matters? A tiny paper carries hope, belonging, and connection. When it flies away, identity and possibility vanish too. Diaspora is not lost through war or law, but through small, intimate heartbreaks. So the conclusion for the book, this emotional core of diaspora in Lahiri's writing is found not in history or politics, but in ordinary moments. A broken of marriage, a lost address, a foreign gesture, where identity slips quietly between two worlds. Key ideas. The Des family is of Indian descent, but raised in America. They return to India as tourists, not as locals. Their interactions are cold, distant, and fragile, especially between Mr. and Mrs. Das. Their emotional disconnect reflects cultural disconnection. There are some other famous works written by Lahiri. The first one is The Namesake. It's a novel, a very famous novel written by Jhumpa. And the next one is Unaccustomed Earth. And the other one is In the Other Words by Jhumpa Lahiri. But In Other Words, originally written in Italian. Diaspora identity in Jhumpa Lahiri's work. Jhumpa Lahiri explores what it means to live between cultures, not fully belonging to one place and not fully fitting into another. She writes about characters who struggle with roots, language, family expectations, and identity. Two of her strongest examples of diaspora identity appear in The Namesake and Interpreter of Melodies. So, there are also diasporic consciousness. Jhumpa Lahiri has faithfully converted her experiences as an expatriate Indian writer in her literary works, novels, and short stories. Identity crisis, sense of displacement, and alienation are some of the common experiences that have been shared by the first generation and the second generation immigrants. But the identity crisis and the issues faced by both generation immigrants differ from each other. The former is still tied to its roots and is more or less baffled by the American experience. They still consider India as their homeland and are bound to its culture and traditions. The latter faces a new crisis as the culture at their home widely differs from that of the society around them. They constantly have to negotiate and make adjustments between the two worlds. The present article attempts to analyze the dilemma and crisis faced by both generations of immigrants, as well as their hopes and expectations in an alien land. why Jhumpa Lahiri is inspiring as a diaspora writer. She writes diaspora from lived experience based on her story. Lahiri was born in London, raised in America, and her parents are Indian. Born in London and raised in Rhode Islands by her Bengali parents, she feels neither Indian nor American. She transforms everyday immigrant life into universal emotion. She exposes invisible emotional wounds, maladies. The title of interpreter of maladies means more than illness. It refers to emotional and cultural pain, guilt, loneliness, disconnected, and various loss of cultural belonging. In conclusion, Jhumpa Lahiri stands out as a powerful voice in diaspora literature because she writes not only about the movement of people, but about the movement of identity, memory, and emotion. Through works like Interpreter of Melodies, The Namesake, and even her later writing in Italian, she shows that diaspora is more than geography. It is a personal struggle with belonging, cultural tension, and silent emotional wounds. Her characters reveal the unseen pain of living between two worlds, yet they also carry hope, resilience, and desire to understand themselves. Lahiri's literature resonates across cultures because the search for home is universal. She teaches us that identity is not fixed. It grows, shifts, and sometimes hurts, but through storytelling, it can be understood, shared, and healed. So thank you for listening. That's all from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.